Jimmy Gerken didn't get to go to school with all the other kids.
Something happened while Jimmy was being born that made his brain work differently.
That sometimes made life sad for Jimmy and his family. They couldn't always be together. On Sunday evenings, their parents drove Jimmy and his brother and sister down to a big, dark building with a pointy roof south of town. There were people there who knew how to give Jimmy the help he needed. Jimmy stayed in the big, dark building all week long until he got to come home on the weekend. Every Sunday night, when it was time for them to leave Jimmy, his family would say to him, "See you later, alligator." "In a while, crocodile," Jimmy would respond, and his dad would take Jimmy, smiling bravely, into the big old building. Years later, Jimmy got to go to a special school during the day and stay home each night. He still couldn't go to school with the other kids in the neighborhood, but Jimmy would go to his brother's sports practices and games. He loved watching kids play football in the fall and baseball in the spring. Jimmy never got to play in the games, but he loved being with the other kids. As Jimmy got older, he spent more and more time at school. He still wasn't a student, but he went to every game he could. He went to every concert and play. By the time Jimmy was a teenager, he was spending so much time at the high school that his parents moved to a house that was closer to the school. They did that so it would be easier for Jimmy to get back and forth from his house to the school. When people would see Jimmy around town, they'd wave and say hello, and Jimmy would always wave back and share a big smile. Jimmy loved spending time at school, but sometimes some of the kids were mean to him. One day when Jimmy was having fun with some kids, a boy pointed at Jimmy and said, "You walk funny." The boy laughed and added, "You walk just like a duck." To Jimmy, it seemed like all the fun had stopped. It felt like everyone was looking at him, waiting to see what he would do. Jimmy looked right at the boy who had teased him. He smiled his biggest smile. "That's okay," Jimmy said. "I'll still be your friend." As soon as Jimmy said that, it seemed like the fun started up all over again. It didn't seem like everyone was looking at Jimmy. He was back to being one of the kids, just like he'd always wanted to be. From that day on, whenever someone teased Jimmy, he always responded the same way. "That's okay. I'll still be your friend." As the years went by, the teasing mostly stopped. People knew Jimmy was different from the other kids, but they realized every other kid was different too. They all had different talents and abilities, and Jimmy had a special gift for being everyone's friend. School was always Jimmy's favorite place. He loved the other kids. He loved them so much that when he was old enough, the high school hired Jimmy to work there. He helped coach teams. He helped set up tables and chairs. As he said, he tried to help everyone who needs it as much as I can. Most of all, he helped brighten everyone's day. Students, teachers, parents, the whole town. Many years later, after Jimmy was gone, a beautiful place called Gerken Plaza was built at one end of the football stadium. Gerken Plaza honors Jimmy and how he was a friend to everyone. Right near the corner of the football field, there's a statue of Jimmy. He's sitting on a bench, wearing his baseball cap with the E on it. He's smiling his biggest smile. He's waving his hand to say hi. And there's a spot on the bench next to Jimmy for anyone who ever needs a friend.